Lesson 60. These ideas are for today's review. 46. God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he has never condemned. The blameless cannot blame, and those who have accepted their innocence see nothing to forgive. Yet forgiveness is the means by which I will recognize my innocence. It is the reflection of God's love on earth. It will bring me near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down to me and raise me up to him. 47. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me, and I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. 48. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me? 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There is not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There is not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I am walking steadily on toward truth. There is nowhere else I can go, because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. 50. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I am sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his Son. Lesson 60. The path to innocence through forgiveness, the love that frees us. God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he has never condemned, but we do. We condemn ourselves, and in doing so, we condemn others. It's a cycle that keeps us bound to guilt. Yet there is a way out. The only way to truly forgive is through God's love, and that love reveals that we were never guilty in the first place. Forgiveness is not about pardoning someone who has done wrong. It is about recognizing that blame itself is an illusion. The blameless cannot blame. When we see our own innocence, we no longer see anything to forgive in others. But how do we get there? By using forgiveness as the bridge. This is the paradox. Forgiveness is only necessary when we believe in guilt. But in practicing forgiveness, we recognize that guilt was never real to begin with. And once we fully accept that, there is nothing left to forgive. Strength beyond the ego. God is the strength in which I trust. We often rely on our own strength, but the ego's strength is a fragile illusion. It wants to fight, to prove, to defend. It does not know how to forgive. But God's strength is different. It is the still, quiet power that reminds us of who we are. Forgiveness does not come from effort, from forcing ourselves to let go. It arises naturally when we tap into God's strength. When we forgive, we feel lighter. Why? Because we are remembering something we once chose to forget, that we are not separate, that we are loved, that we are innocent. Think of it like a mirror covered in dust. The dust is blame, judgment, and fear. As we wipe it away through forgiveness, we don't add anything to the mirror. We simply reveal the clear reflection that was always there. The end of fear. There is nothing to fear. This is not a comforting phrase. It is an absolute fact. There is nothing to fear, no exceptions. But why do we still feel fear? Because we are not seeing reality. We don't see the world. We see our thoughts about it. The Course says we are image makers, projecting illusions rather than perceiving truth. The fearful world we think we see is not out there. It is the reflection of our own unhealed mind. When we clear our mind of grievances, the world transforms. Not because the world itself changes, but because we finally see it for what it is. A place where love extends, where everything leans toward us to bless us, where even what seemed like enemies reveal themselves as our dearest friends. God's voice is always speaking. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. The guidance we seek is never absent. The problem is not that God is silent, it is that we are distracted. His voice is the quiet truth beneath the noise of fear, doubt, and guilt. He is always saying the same thing: forgive, see differently, let go, you are safe. When we stop listening to the ego's voice of blame and fear, we hear the one voice that has been guiding us all along. This voice directs our thoughts, guides our actions, and leads our steps, not as a force imposing itself on us, but as the truth waiting to be remembered. The only game in town. There is nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to His Son. At some point, we realize there is no alternative. We have tried blame, and it brought us suffering. We have tried fear, and it kept us small. We have tried control, and it exhausted us. None of these paths lead anywhere. The only real choice is to listen to God's voice, to walk in truth, to accept that we are already home. You don't have to swim, but you can't get out of the water. The only option is to let the current carry you, to stop struggling and trust. And when you do, you realize you were never in danger. This is the only game in town. But it's not a game of winners and losers. It's a game where everyone wins the moment they remember they were never playing against anyone at all.